Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Market. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I am your host, Clinton James, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Bobby.
Hey, like Clinton said, Bobby, co-host, CEO of Extreme Services.
All right, Bobby. So one of the most popular episodes that we've had in the history of the Restoration Pros Unplugged was when you talked a little bit about your experience working with TPAs. Now, this has been months and months and months since we've recorded that episode, and I know a lot has changed in the TPA landscape. So today, for the audience, what I want to talk about is three of the top challenges that are facing TPA contractors in 2025. Okay.
Sure.
I think you are uniquely positioned to talk about this subject because you've built such a successful business with multiple locations, and TPAs are probably, no, you tell me, are TPAs the biggest marketing channel and the biggest deliverer of restoration jobs to your business?
So we are TPA heavy. I will say that, throughout the years, we started with TPAs. So that kind of is where we got our grassroots start from was from TPAs. But yeah, today we're still TPA heavy. But I think it is important to have a balance of TPAs and getting business on your own as well too.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about specifically what's going on in the TPA landscape right now. So what's changed in the TPA world over the last 12 to 24 months that really is impacting contractors right now?
So TPAs are always changing. Carriers are always coming up with new guidelines. TPAs are trying to conform to those guidelines. Example, there's an insurance carrier that wants you to do pre and post videos. So TPAs are implementing that. Also with ITEL, they want you to do ITEL samples with cabinets as well. So there are a lot of different policies and procedures that are always changing in the TPA space. So in this space, you have to be willing to adapt and change, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to be in their networks.
How many different TPAs is your company utilizing right now?
So we're on 4 TPAs.
Okay. What are those, if you don't mind sharing with the audience, what are those 4 TPAs?
Yeah, AccuServe, Alacrity, Lions Bridge, and Contractor Connection.
What went into the process of determining these are the TPAs that I want to use to grow my business?
Well, in the very beginning, the process was who's going to take me first. That was the process.
All right. Who's going to let you on? For the audience members that don't have a lot of experience with TPAs, what are the traditional qualifications that TPAs are looking for before they'll put a restoration company on contract or on programs?
Yeah, so a lot of the TPAs, they're looking for years in business, 2 to 3 years being in business. You actually have a physical location, 2 to 3 years business tax returns, balance sheets, P&Ls, making sure that you're ICOC certified, WRT, ASD, if you're doing fire, FSRT, and if you're doing mold, AMRT. So it's a couple different things that TPAs are looking for. They want your firm to be a certified firm through the IICRC. So those are just some of the basics that they're going to hit on with the approval process of getting on with a TPA.
Okay. So in how many years have you been on these various TPAs right now?
Let's see. Going on 8 years now.
Okay. Are you impacted on a regular basis by them making any changes to the criteria for who can and can't be on program?
So I'm not impacted by who can and can't be on a program. I'm more so impacted by the changes that they create for contractors being in the program, because ultimately I'm not an administrator of the program, so I have no say what's one way or another on who gets in and who doesn't.
Okay. All right. So one of the big issues, let's start with number one, that you and I have talked about is payment turnaround time.
Mhm.
What are you seeing in terms of delays and contractor frustrations with payment timelines?
All right, so I'm going to use one TPA in particular, which I'm sure a lot of the viewers will appreciate. It was once called Cold Blue, now AccuServe. So the biggest pain point that I have with them is for their file handlers to actually close out the file. So they're going to, a couple things happen. When you go do a water job, you upload your Mika report. Um, you get your photos in, you get your videos, and you write your estimate. So theoretically, you think the job is done. But what happens on AccuServe's side, I don't know if they're short-staffed or whatever the case may be, they're not closing those files out. And when you have that delay, a file handler is not closing files out on a timely basis. It delays it going to the carrier, whether it's, I'm gonna use Allstate, for example. Um, to see those files and to review. And they actually also actually reviews and approves them pretty quick because they use the Mika QA system. So once it gets into Allstate's queue, it's almost immediate that they are approved because there is a flag system that's in place to say whether we're going to approve or not approve the estimate. And with AccuServe delaying some of those um, closure processes, they don't always get closed in a timely manner, which delays the payment process. And as a contractor, you may, instead of waiting, um, a week to get paid, you may be waiting weeks or even a month to get paid. Because theoretically, um, when AccuServe closes a file and it goes to Mika, Allstate typically pays within 2 to 3 days, which is relatively quick period of time to get paid. So now it goes into AccuServe's process. They have to wait to receive payment from the carrier, which may take another 2, 3, 4 days, just depending. And maybe if it falls on a Friday, it might take a little longer
Okay.
to get through the weekend. But when they finally do get the payment, they don't pay out immediately. They will send you an email saying, wait 4 to 7 business days, wait 5 to 10 business days, which it didn't used to be like that. So that's a pain point now for not only myself, but other contractors, because they used to have a program called the 3RP program, which means after you finish that job, you pretty much get paid immediately after things are completed. So now contractors are having to wait a little while to get paid from that particular TPA.
Do you have any power as the contractor to, nudge the right processes or the tools to get them to get those files closed out in a timely manner?
So the thing is, what we've been doing is reaching out to the file handlers, reaching out to their support email, saying, "Hey, let's use this for example. When we finish a claim, we automatically send an email to them saying we finalized or completed the claim. Can you please finalize the invoice?" Um, we're pushing that, but even with pushing that, it doesn't guarantee that your invoice is going to get finalized or completed in a timely manner that you may want. Because keep in mind, you don't know what their AccuServe runs 24 hours. You don't know which shift that file handler is working, if they have days off. So you're kind of in the dark, and it's not necessarily something that I'm proud or happy to have to deal with. I think it's something that they do need to look at and correct, but it is an issue in the industry with AccuServe.
So, as the contractor, how do delay payments impact cash flow and ultimately business scalability?
I mean, just with any business, when you're waiting for cash, especially if you're a company and you have employees, that ultimately affects your payroll, right? So, money in, money out. Uh, if cash is not flowing, you got to figure out other ways to make that cash flow.
Absolutely. And we've talked in previous episodes of some additional like fee for service services that a restoration can offer to make sure you've got that steady cash flow coming in, especially when there's an opportunity for delayed payments and through insurance claims. There,
Absolutely.
are there any specific strategies or systems that a successful contractor can use to kind of minimize those delays?
So, like I said, being proactive with the TPAs, as soon as you get your invoice done and sent in, let them know immediately everything is finalized. Try to see if you don't get a response that day, try to follow up the next day to get a response. I hate that you have to babysit the claim, but if you want your money to come through, you kind of have to at this point. And this is specifically for AccuServe. I'm not going to say this about other TPAs, but this is kind of the play for AccuServe right now.
Okay. Any horror stories, any recent claims that took way too long to get paid on that you want to share with the audience?
That's probably all of them right now, Clinton.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. What do you think if one of the TPAs brought you in as an advisor to improve the process and make it a little better for the contractors?
Mhm.
What kind of solutions would you propose?
One solution that I would propose would be having a liaison to contractors for payments, and also a process of a finalization on those claims. Because ultimately, if they get someone that is overseeing the finalization process, you won't have a delay in payments. But with you depending on one person, the file handler, you're going to run into a lot of different problems every single time because, again, you don't know when that person is working, what shift that they have, days off, or whatever the case is. So I would definitely recommend a liaison between the contractor and AccuServe on making sure those claims are taken care of. Now, AccuServe, well, I will say this: Code Blue used to have an advisory board. I once was a member of that board, but since it's become AccuServe, they no longer don't have the contractor advisory board. But if they do bring it back, um, that is one point that I would definitely mention to them.
Okay. Let's jump to the second issue. Second
Mhm,
really big issue right now for contractors, TPA contractors. That's service level agreements, right? So how are
mhm.
service level agreements, SLAs, how are those becoming more rigid and difficult to meet as a contractor?
Again, like I was talking about with a particular carrier where they want you to have pre and post videos, ITEL samples for cabinets. ITEL has been pretty normal for flooring, throughout the years. But it seems like, every year there's something new that's being added into those SLAs, and you're graded off your SLAs, right? So if you are hitting those metrics, whether being on site within, 2 to 4 hours, you're having your estimate uploaded within 24 hours, your photos uploaded within 6 hours of arrival, whatever SLAs that they have in place, you get scored on that. And the higher your score means the more volume theoretically you should get with the TPA. Now, here's the downfall with that. Every scenario is not going to work out like that. You have a customer, you want to get out there within 2 to 4 hours. But let's say the customer says, "Hey, I'm out of town," or "I got an elderly parent at home. Today's not going to work." Uh, Even if you tell the TPA, in my opinion, it does, you still get penalized on something that's out of your control.
Well, where's that disconnect between field realities and ultimately the TPA expectations?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, let's just be real. TPAs sit in an office at a desk or a cubicle, right?
Right.
So let's think about this. When's the last time they've been in the field and did a water damage? I'm not talking about an ASD flood house. That don't count. Let's talk. I'm talking about going in the field and facing some of these challenges. And I think that's really what the disconnect is. You can't. I mean, even me as a CEO, I can't expect to understand everything in the field if I don't go in the field myself, right?
Right.
Um, I want to say it was maybe a few weeks ago. I went in the field and they were working on a job and I was helping too. And in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, we got to do this in this amount of time, that amount of time. But now I'm out here working like, man, this is kind of hard. I need to give a little bit more leniency to what we're doing.
That's a good segue into one of the next talking points about SLAs is when you're, as the CEO of a business, having
Mhm,
team members, project managers, technicians that have to
mhm.
operate under these systems. What are you doing from a system and a staffing model to consistently hit those SLA metrics that you need to hit?
Well, one of the things that we do, I mean, we have our morning meetings, and I have a fantastic VP of operations. His name's Scotty Irwin, and we try to make sure we implement everything that needs to take place as far as the SLAs. Getting the pre and post videos, getting the photographs required, getting work offs signed digitally, physically, however the TPA requires. Um, and then making sure the customer understands what's going on too, because ultimately the TPAs are going to send the customer a survey asking if if they're satisfied with your service as well. So you want to make sure that you're hitting all those key points. It's not a one and done situation with staff. It's something that has to be preached every single day.
Okay.
Not to say that they're incompetent, but as a CEO, you have guidelines that you have to follow. This is a business. The TPAs have guidelines that they have to follow from the carriers. They're in the business as well too. So it's ultimately this continual communication so that it flows in a way that it needs to. And it's always going to be a situation once every blue moon to where you have a newer technician. Oh, I forgot to take the post video or whatever the case is. They're always gonna, because you have the human factor there. But ultimately, if you're preaching that, you're implementing in the field. You know, again, lead by example too. Me as a CEO, I go in the field sometimes as well, and you have to lead by example.
All right. Let's talk about the third, and probably one of the biggest issues right now facing
Mhm.
contractors, TVA contracts right now, claim volume and inconsistency. Man, so we've heard from contractors across the country. It's kind of a feast or famine claim flows, right?
Yeah.
What's your take, and what do you think's causing this?
So a couple things, depending on your market, it may be an oversaturation of contractors.
Okay.
It also may be SLAs. You're not hitting the SLA matrix that you need to be hitting, and you're ranking lower, and you're not getting the volume. And again, we're coming off of 2024, which is a bad year for the restoration industry. So volume, it's still trying to come back. It's not as fierce as it was in 2023 when everybody was eating, right? But 2024, everybody took a hit. TPAs took a hit, all the way around the board. So now I think it's just really important to make sure you're hitting those SLAs, so your score can be higher. Um, and then again, like I said, depending on your market, it may be saturated. TPAs work in some markets and TPAs don't work in other markets.
Your two primary hubs for your business right
Mhm.
now are Birmingham, Memphis, and then you also do some work in Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Um, would you say that those 3, because those are probably 3 of the top 50 to 100 markets in the country,
Mhm.
when it comes to restoration services. Would you say that those markets are oversaturated in terms of the number of TPA contractors?
My markets, I would say no.
Okay,
No. Mhm.
okay. Um, can TPA dependency ultimately hurt a business long term?
I think it can. I think it can. If you're solely dependent on TPAs, I think it can. I feel like again, you need to have the balance of other services that you added to the mix because if TPAs slow down or claim volume slows down, what are you doing? You're twiddling your thumbs. You're calling your regional field manager. Hey, where's the volume at? So at the end of the day, you're still a business. You got to make it happen. TPAs are a piece of a business, but it shouldn't be your sole only piece of business that you get.
As a working in the digital marketing space for restoration companies, there are
Mhm.
probably a big chunk of our clients that do TPA work, but that's not their only marketing channel, right? So what we try to do as their growth partner is we try to position them so that that homeowner, that business owner that comes home, they're standing in 2 inches of water. A lot of those folks aren't necessarily reaching out to their insurance carrier first, right?
Right.
Especially the influent areas there. They're going on. I mean, everybody's got a supercomputer in their back pocket
Mhm.
nowadays, so they're going on Google, and ultimately, the restoration company that shows up in that Google search, they're gonna get that initial phone call. They're gonna get that initial site visit. They're
Absolutely.
in a lot of cases, they're gonna get those jobs. So I think while TPAs can play a great role in growing a successful restoration company, like you said, diversification is key, right? Because you never know when a TPA is going to make a change that makes you more money or makes you less money, right?
Right.
Um, tell me a little about, because these TPAs that you're on right now, they're not the only TPAs that you've been a part of in the past. Tell
Sure.
me about circumstances in which you decided, hey, I'm not doing any business with this TPA anymore.
Mhm.
It doesn't make good business sense for me as a restoration company owner.
Right. So the TPAs make you, withhold their standards of credentialing and guidelines, insurance and things of that nature. So there was a particular TPA that, we maintained all the insurance guidelines, credentialing over a period of a year, and we never received one claim from that TPA. So for us, it didn't make any sense to maintain that credentialing, and you never sent us one claim. So um, that was probably one of the worst case scenarios, I would say, for my TPA experience.
Okay.
But not to badmouth that TPA in particular. It just in that particular market, which is the Birmingham market, volume is it's a slower market for TPAs. But Birmingham is probably one of my slowest market for TPAs. Memphis and Atlanta are definitely busier. We get some work in Birmingham, but Birmingham is a slower market when it comes to TPAs.
Okay, so I talk to a lot of restoration companies, both clients, prospects, folks that I've just met through doing this podcast. What would you say is the biggest myth about TPAs out there in the restoration industry?
I would say probably the biggest myth about TPAs is I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say this. Me and you are both part of I'm not going to name the group. We're part of a group that's out there, Restoration Group.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people will say comments such as, what TPA should I stay away from? What TPAs, pay the best?
Right.
The thing is there's I guess there can be a lot of different myths about TPAs, but at the end of the day, you as a business person, it's up to you to do your due diligence and find out if it makes sense for you to partner with that TPA, right? Um, because I think a lot of contractors have the mindset of, let me grab a TPA, I'm gonna get business. They may offer me a lower amount of money, which is just simply not true. If you are hitting the SLAs, most of them have a percentage-based fee. Now, AccuServe, again, they have a pricing system unique to themselves, but you will have to put yourself higher. And if you don't put yourself at a higher price point, they'll rip you on. When I first got started with AccuServe, man, we were doing 50-50 splits. I'm looking like, "Now, this ain't right. I'm out here doing the work, and AccuServe getting 50% of my invoice." So, I would say it's important for contractors to do your due diligence, make an educated decision. I don't think it's fair to say TPAs are bad.
Hmm.
Now, are there situations to where a contractor can have a bad experience with a TPA? Absolutely. And are there situations to where a contractor can get aggravated due to some of the processes? Absolutely. I'm still that contractor, right? I still get aggravated from some of the
After eight
processes.
years, you're still
Yeah, and like
your
after
head
8
against.
years. Exactly, but I'll say this, man, I mean, TPAs, have put me in a situation financially, that I don't believe I would be able to do without them. But again, you as a business owner, you have to make that decision, what makes sense for you. Um, but TPAs were the jet fuel for my business.
All right. So if you had to start all over again in 2025, would you still build with TPAs as your primary lead generation tool for restoration jobs?
I wouldn't say primary, but I absolutely would build with them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is one tool or piece of technology that's helping your business thrive despite the issues that you're having with TPAs?
Mhm. Um, I want to say one of the things that helps us is our back end software. We use it's very simple, man. I believe in simplicity in business. We use a company called Jobber, right? With our scheduling, and and then also implementation of letting customers know that you're on your way, grabbing surveys and customer satisfactions and things of nature. Now, I wish Jobber would integrate with Xactimate and Exact Analysis. There are other softwares that do integrate with them, but it's not necessarily user friendly on the service side, 'cause I don't wanna consider myself just as a restoration company. I consider us more as a service company. Restoration is a service we provide, but we're not solely a restoration company.
Okay, got it, got it. All right, Bobby. So for the audience listening, anyone that's kind of a newer restoration company that's thinking about jumping into TPA work, any advice you give those guys?
Main thing I would say about jumping into TPAs is read the service level agreements, understand what they're what they're looking for, because uh, like you just mentioned, one of the biggest myths is that you just mentioned was what are people thinking when they get started with TPAs, right? So I would say one myth that people think is that uh, they're going to take all my money, or they're going to not give me a fair split. So I think for me, if someone's getting started in TPA work, is understand, like I said, SLAs, their guidelines. If you learn to understand their game, you can win and beat them at their game. And I'd say that all the time to anybody that gets into the TPA space, learn their game, right? So if you learn their system, you learn their game, you can win at it. But if you're, I mean, I mean, we can use an NFL or NBA team or anything. They're in there watching them videos, they're learning their opponent, right? I'm not saying the TPA is necessarily your opponent, but at the end of the day, they have guidelines and you have to learn to master those guidelines so you can win what you want to do.
All right. Well, 8 years doing this, Bobby, I think you've probably done a pretty good job of mastering their guidelines and learning how to play their game so that you can grow a successful restoration company.
Absolutely.
To the audience, thank you guys for sticking around. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe. Please like. If you know another restoration contractor in the space that's interested, share this content with them, man. Bobby, as always, it is a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Clay. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, man.
All right, we'll be back. We'll be back soon with more great content, guys. Again, like, share, subscribe, follow us on all the socials there. We'll be back soon with more interviews, more content to really just help you grow your restoration business there. So, thanks again for the time, Bobby. To the audience, we'll be back soon.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.